Good morning and good afternoon, and welcome to PHRN, our Wednesday webinar. And we're very lucky today to have Annette Hicks, who is a Senior Health Advisor with Watson Health at IBM. She will talk to us today. It's a follow-on from our symposium in Sydney, and she will talk to us about innovation and how we should use Australia's publicly funded data. Annette has over 20 years' experience as a healthcare and information communications technology professional in the health industry, and she currently holds the position of Senior Health Advisor for IBM Watson Health and works internationally to support the Chief Health Officer of IBM Watson Health. That's quite a long description, but I will hand you over to Annette, and she can take it from there. Just a quick one about questions. If you have questions, we will answer them at the very end of the presentation. You just need to pop the questions in, type the question in the question box on the right-hand side of your screen, and I will read them out to Annette at the end. Over to you, Annette. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. And as it was said, this is a follow-on from the symposium. And I'm going to be talking about innovation in healthcare, and particularly about data, because it's one of the key resources we have for innovation in the industry today. I'm going to cover just a bit of an introductory area on how we got to where we got to in IBM, some look at some of the features about AI, and then I'm going to go into some examples of how we've used AI in healthcare and close with some remarks on what should we be looking for in public data. So very first, as a very large company, we need to let people know that we may change product direction or change some of our strategies. So let's just look at our involvement in artificial intelligence. It started about 10 years ago, and it came off the back of a number of people may remember the challenge to the grandmaster in chess, where we used a computer to beat the grandmaster. Then our IBM research colleagues put a grand challenge, and the grand challenge was for humans to beat a computer to beat humans at Jeopardy. And that started in 2005, and 2011 was when we actually were successful in that challenge. And healthcare was one of the first industries that actually came to IBM and said that AI would be a great tool for healthcare. And what we started with, and one of the solutions I'll be talking about today, was Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Centre was one of those organisations that felt that AI would be very productive in the healthcare industry. And we have moved on to develop a solution with them. So let's just look at some of the challenges we have in healthcare, and everybody on the line will know that we have growing data volumes, but not only volumes, but the complexity. And this really demands a new approach. How do we actually approach the analytics and use of that data, where it's the volume? We've got images, we've got text, we've got stream data, we've got all sorts of data coming in, and we need to be able to know a way to analyse it. As well as this, some of the new realities for us is that 80% of that data is actually invisible because it's unstructured text. And as I said, it's doubling every 24 months, and that's increasing because we're getting more and more electronic systems. The other side of the coin is that there is a gap between what we know and what we do. 45% of medicine is not evidence-based, and it takes up to 17 years to translate science to practice. And this really makes us seek out a better way to be able to take that information that's being generated and create insights that are critical to our success in healthcare. So artificial intelligence, or AI as we refer to, what is so interesting about this capability? It is a new approach to analytics, and it has some really interesting attributes that make it very compatible to healthcare. It has an understanding, and it has an ability to interpret and derive actionable insights from information and knowledge. It has reasoning. It can actually take data and knowledge and draw connections from that information and solve problems using the information. The third, which I think is most intriguing, is the learning. So it can continue to improve over time with exposure to new data. And a lot of the solutions that we've built have been trained using that methodology. And lastly is that interacting capability. It can fit into workflows and it can have interactions that work best for users. So overall, it is a very different technology to the technologies we've been faced in healthcare, and it offers the opportunity for us to use it in a seamless manner in some of our systems to support clinicians and administrators and those sort of individuals in healthcare. At this point, I need to make some statement about whether AI will take over human capability in healthcare. A lot of clinicians say to me they're very concerned that once we use artificial intelligence, then they will lose their jobs. I think what we need to look at is the capabilities that humans and AI bring to the table and consider this as an augmentation of intelligence. Humans are very good at common sense, imagination, morals, abstraction. AI has the capability in natural language processing, machine learning, pattern identification, repetition and consistency. And what it does when we talk about the solutions and the way AI is being used, it's about augmenting the clinician or augmenting humans in being able to do their job better with the insights from the data available. The methodologies we use, there's two ways that we actually harness data, and I think it's really important to understand this. There is the knowledge-driven and the data-driven. The knowledge-driven method is about taking all of that published literature, scientific papers, books, guidelines, and using that to close what we would call the translational knowledge gap, and which is where IBM has done a lot of solutions thus far. The second one, data-driven, is all about taking individual insights about patients or their environment, such as social, longitudinal health records, claims, data, and that's all about what we call real-world evidence. And I'll now go into talking about different ways that we've solutions that we have commercialised into the market. The first area I want to talk about, which is the first place that we actually started working, which is in oncology. And you can see here, this is a global map, and we've had a fairly strong global reach into the health system using AI and in particular our oncology solution. So the IBM Watson Oncology platform consists of 4 capabilities: clinical decision support, which is all about evidence-informed treatment options based on individual patient profiles. It is built on a corpus of knowledge around oncology, and it supports clinicians in making informed decisions using particular data about a patient's cancer to ensure that it's much more personalised and it aligns to clinical guidelines. The second is clinical trial matching, where instead of a clinician having to look up a trial and assessing whether a patient is actually accessible, this uses natural language processing to take the information available about that patient and match it to trials. So it enables a clinician to choose trials in a quicker fashion. Genomics is all about interpretation of genetic mutations to provide faster, validated variant information and clinical content. It actually takes the genetic mutation information, it looks at for driver genes and marries it to appropriate targeted treatments. And lastly is the literature insights, which actually came from the clinical decision support tool, Watson for Oncology. And the corpus of knowledge that's been built for that clinical decision support is now going to be available in the US at the moment for clinicians to search relevant data and literature insights. It makes it quicker and easier to get that information. So let's talk about what impact this type of capability and technology has had. The first one I'm looking at is Watson for Oncology. And this is a clinical paper that was published in ASCO, which is the premier oncology conference in 2019, last year. And it looked at the impact on decision-making by clinicians, particularly in the multidisciplinary tumour board. And here it shows that there was an impact, and that in 13.6% of the cases, there was changes to therapeutic options that they may have considered because of Watson for Oncology. And some of the reasons were related to evidence for newer treatments, more personalised treatment alternatives, and newer genotypic, phenotypic and clinical insights were given through the tool to the multidisciplinary team. So it does help and support clinicians in their endeavour to choose appropriate treatments. The second case here, which is another published paper from ASCO, it's about the Watson for Genomics. And really this looks at how effective it is in assisting going from a manual process to a automated process. And we see that in the 10 cases of the 54 that they looked at from did manual interpretation analysis, they found that there was 9 more clinically actionable variants not found in manual assessment. So not only is it clinically concordant with manual, it also helps in identifying newer and more actionable variants. Let's move away from Watson for Oncology, but look at some of the other uses for AI that we've found. This is looking at using digital image analysis using computer algorithms, and that's in melanoma. And IBM Research did some work which found that using an algorithm against clinicians or dermatologists, it found that those algorithms were actually as accurate in many cases, but not all dermatologists. And a lot of people look at this and saying that imaging is one of those areas that we can see a huge interest in being able to harness machines to help analyse digital images. And I think we're going to see a lot more solutions, and we are seeing them coming into the market, that actually look at using machines to do the initial analysis of imaging, which I think will improve and assist clinicians in that space. This is a use of real-world data. Medtronics with IBM have created an app called Sugar IQ for diabetics, type 1 diabetics, and it looks at helping them analyse their blood glucose levels, their food intake and their activity levels to assist in maintaining that blood glucose level, giving them advice on what they should do to assist in maintaining that level. And this is shown in this case that it actually did improve the maintenance in a healthy range, glucose range. And that's really important because this sort of thing can help understand an individual's reaction to different foods and exercise activity to ensure that they have insights on how to manage their blood glucose levels. Lastly, I just want to look at the area of combining both knowledge management and data-driven methodologies to actually start to look at getting insights that could improve how we understand certain areas of healthcare. And one area that I'm going to take here is the weather trigger health events. Looking at combining all of the literature we have out there on health events that are triggered by weather, and then taking the weather data, and just as a IBM owns weather company, and looking at how can you use that using AI to start understanding and predicting when there will be weather events that we should alert individuals to in cases such as asthma, migraines, well known for being triggered by weather events, so that they can actually take some precautionary measures. There's a lot of things we can do in this space, and that is just one of those areas I think that's just opening up to us how we understand using this technology. Now, just in closing, you know, using this new capability, AI, we can harness both knowledge and data, and we can gain insights. And I think what I was trying to do today was demonstrate that there is this new capability. We can run it across the data, both published and data that we have publicly funded, and start to actually garner insights that will enable us to actually have better knowledge about health and health outcomes. And I think really from a patient point of view, from a clinician point of view, from an administrator point of view, policymaker point of view, this is an opportunity for us to actually harness that data more effectively. So thank you very much for your time.